Let us pray. To Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for the privilege of coming here tonight to be represented and also to represent our Hillsdale community and those from different areas, Lord, that are here tonight. I pray, Lord, you'll bless the conversations, that Heavenly Father, you'll continue to bless Mayor Adam Stockford, my good friend, and all the other leaders that are here today. I pray, Lord, you'll watch over them as they serve. And Lord, just as you told the prophet Ezekiel that you have made him watchman over people of Israel, I pray that our city leaders, that they will be godly watchmen and watchwomen over your creation. We pray that just as you renewed Ezekiel's call to be watchmen, I pray that tonight, Lord, you'll renew each of their call for every leader that are here today, that you'll give them wisdom and strength and be the watchmen you call them to be and watchwomen. For today's decisions, Lord, I know will determine tomorrow's blessings. Thank you for giving us this evening our daily bread. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Prince. Will everybody please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome all of our friends and neighbors and colleagues in joining us in this regularly scheduled March 1st, 2021 City Council meeting. As you come in, there'll be a sign-in sheet on the desk over there. If you're a guest with us tonight, please sign your name. May I please have a roll call vote, City Clerk.
Councilperson Soha,
Present.
Briner,
Here.
Veer, Morrissey,
Here.
Councilperson Sharp. Here. Councilperson, can you state where you're at?
At 80 Westwood Street, Hillsdale.
All right, thank you. Councilperson Stuchel,
Here.
Pratt,
Here.
Sizer,
Here.
and Mayor Stockford.
Here.
You have 8 present, Mayor.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into approval of agenda. City manager or any member of council have any changes to make to the agenda tonight? Seeing no changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. Please have a roll call vote.
Councilperson Briner,
Yes.
Veer, Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yeah.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move into public comment on agenda items only. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to 1 to the podium. And please make sure if you're commenting during this section of public comment that has something that is a direct tie to something that's present on the agenda. Podium's now open.
Yeah, Reverend Dennis Wayne Scott, Universal Celtic Ministries. I'm here about Robert's proposition, I guess that's what you called it?
Resolution.
Okay, but I think it's a very good thing. I think it's a thing that we need as a public, and you as a council, which are also voted in by the public, should recognize this, because when it comes to our Constitution, it's the most important contract that we have ever seen, heard, or even partook of. Right now we're seeing it stolen from us. We see the things that's happening within our nation. At one time, you may not even be up there the way things are going. I think that it should be continued on, and I think you need to back the people of our city. As you can see, we have many here that I believe that are for this, and I know I'm going to say something that might affect people and stuff, and this is one thing. Anybody that is for the Equity Act or Equality Act and believes in that, I am sorry, but that would make you in the line of a murderer. That would put you into a place that, you know, when a child and that spark of life is gone or comes to a child, that becomes a living soul. That becomes a living being that God created. And any time that we take that away from that child, you might as well put your own life on the line, because that's what you're doing. And I'm here to say that I am for this. I stand up for the 12th Amendment, where we need a election that is not done by paper being mailed through the mail, but that each and every one of us should stand up for our rights and vote the way that we need to, and go to our posts and vote there and as a human being would be able to. I granted that there are people that are sick or afflicted or unable to do it, that needs to do the absentee, you know what I mean, ballot, and you know, if that's needed, fine. But for us to turn around and do it the way our last election was terrible. That took and hurt every one of us as American citizens. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
Yeah, Robert Eichler, Scipio Township. To address you folks, I hope you'll change the idea of having 3 minutes. 5 minutes is adequate. Usually people can get enough stuffed in about 5, but 3 kind of chokes us off a bit, but just want to make mention, I hope that happens. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I'm speaking in support of Councilman Soha's resolution protecting our constitutional rights. You all took an oath to uphold the state of Michigan Constitution and the Constitution of the United States. COVID has been a litmus test as to the agenda of the political party of our governor and the political party of our president of the United States, and how they want to skirt our constitutional rights via this virus. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say unless there's a deadly virus out there. I'm all for limited government, but at times our government needs to step up and protect our constitutional rights. Hillsdale is Hillsdale County's county seat and the home of Hillsdale College, who has always been in the forefront of people's constitutional rights. It is Hillsdale City Council's duty to step up and be a voice of the people and protect our constitutional rights. I know I have others here that don't feel comfortable getting up, so if they would stand up and support my statements. We have many here that just don't feel comfortable standing up and talking to you, so they asked me to state this. I commend Councilman Soha for taking a proactive approach to protecting our rights and not a knee-jerk reaction after our constitutional rights have been taken away from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Any more public comment?
I'll be brief. John Smith, Somerset. Hey, thank you, Robert, for putting this forward. I know you guys did something back in April. If there's a time to come together with other government officials throughout the county, this would be the time, I guess. It'd be great to get county and city together, writing something. Let's get Scott Hodshire on board. This is actually the goal, is to encourage someone like Scott Hepner or Scott Hodshire to get on board with something like this. So thank you again for having this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hi, Carla Adams, Ward 4. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, God-given words, unalienable rights, passed on by our forefathers, by blood-spilled deaths, so that we the people could live lives that others around the world only dream of and beg for before they could enter into this great land of liberty. A smile, a breath of fresh air, the simplest of things that make all the difference on the worst days and the best days. How can a country so educated misrepresents the citizens it serves? By adhering to fear, we only enable darkness. Masks are required for school and yet not a law. I'm not going to get into the kids portion, into the schools union, and into the indoctrination of our children, but I am going to say, I did speak with Hodshire. He is in interested in a proclamation or an endorsement of a bill similar to Oklahoma 631, which makes the whole state a sanctuary state for gun rights, which our forefathers died for anyway. To see House Resolution 127 in the process, our money being spent while we're locked down, wearing masks, unable to even communicate with our family out of fear that we're going to kill each other, and watch our rights be stripped is an abomination. I would encourage the movement and the protection of our civil rights by a yes vote tonight on the proclamation resolution sent forth by Councilman Soho that further declares choices on vaccines, masks, and your choice to own a gun and to protect yourself about the things I above stated. The vaccine Moderna is not even FDA approved, so I hope that you support it. I'd like my kid to go back to school without a mask. I'm upset. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carla.
My name is John Beckwith, I live in Hillsdale County. Couple items I want to bring before the council here is that you're all sworn to the Constitution of the United States and sworn to the Constitution of Michigan. Every police officer is. Anybody that does service has sworn to the Constitution. And that is a firewall between you and we the people. We're not sworn to the Constitution. Those are our rights. You're supposed to protect our Constitution. And you're sworn to it. If you don't, that makes you whatever. And I just want you to know that. I've been taking a course in Constitution now for a year in Hillsdale, and I'm amazed what I didn't know. And I think it'd be good for everybody in Hillsdale that has any public service that's sworn to the Constitution, start taking courses on the Constitution so you know what you're doing. Because most people don't, and they get themselves in trouble when they arrest people or do things that's against the Constitution. And I just think it'd be great if you guys would really start understanding what our forefathers, who they were, and what they did for us, and keep our rights. I just want to let you know, we're the people. Okay, thank you.
John.
I'd just like to applaud local government for taking a stand against purely partisan politics. Thank you.
Thanks, Lance.
Tim Martin, Hillsdale Township. I'd like to thank Mr. Rob here for standing up against what the norm seems to be today. I hope you guys can realize and understand what we've all said about swearing to uphold the Constitution. All of you are sitting there because of us, not because of you. I want you to remember that. Also, none of you are doctors and none of you are here to protect us from this little virus. You're here to do exactly what we hired you to do, and that's not it. So when you go into consideration of his agenda here, I hope you really take that seriously, because the next election, you guys can be sitting in the audience with us.
God willing. God willing. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I don't mean to interrupt public comment, but you guys know, I mean, do you have any idea, do you look at this council like we're enemies of yours? Because I think we've been pretty strong on upholding constitutional rights here. We've been holding public meetings. We didn't require you to wear a mask to come in here. I mean,
No,
I appreciate that you guys
with
all
a
came
yes
out.
vote, from everyone, we're hoping that the county board commissioners will take note and hopefully follow suit. Because the city is the start, and we're hoping it goes to the county, and then finally gets up there to Lansing, and somebody pulls Whitmer's head out her ass.
I'd like to see no more Zoom meetings too.
Any more public comment? Anybody online, got anything to say? Anybody online, have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the podium and move into the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we got approval of bills, city claims, council minutes, February 15th, planning commission minutes of January 19th, library minutes of February 11th, EDC minutes of December 1st, LAC minutes of February 23rd, Hillsdale College noise variance for mock rock event, another noise and variance for their, must be third annual Taste of Manning event, Hillsdale College right-of-way use request for their Taste of Manning event, January 2021 finance report, and finance committee minutes of January 25th, February 8th, and February 22nd. Any discussion on any of these items on the consent agenda?
I have one thing. So on the right-of-way use request for the Taste of Manning event, they're closing down streets and sidewalks. Have we had anybody that lives down through there mention anything about that? Or okay with that, or?
I mean,
I know, I was gonna say, I know you live right there.
Boy, basically the whole neighborhood of College House is now, might be another family that lives on the block. Haven't got any complaints about it. The kids actually come to the houses and encourage people to come out. So it's,
All right.
I say it's pretty well received. And they do it in the morning too, during the daytime. It's not one
Right.
of those, noisy late night things, so.
Just a question.
Yeah, no, I understand completely, but no, I think the neighborhood's generally supportive of it. Any more questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Briner to approve the consent agenda as written. And please have roll call vote, city clerk.
Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes?
Sharp. Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
and Briner.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
Thank you, Katie. We'll move on to communication petitions. Only item we have in communications is a notice for our spring 2021 cemetery cleanup of our city Oak Grove and Lakeview cemeteries. That'll take place, it'll begin on March 15th. This information, trying to get it out there as much as possible. If you've got anything out there that isn't a permanent fixture, we discard of it, so I know cemeteries are sacred places. Very intimate connection people have to them, so if there's something out there you do not want thrown away, please go make sure it's permanently secured or get it out of there for that time period. Okay, we'll go into old business. Well, anybody in council have anything to add to our spring cleanup? Dave, you wanna, tell everyone the help we're getting from that? We work with the college on that, right?
Yes, Mayor. So if there is anyone out there who is interested in volunteering, we do typically try to work with college students and the athletic teams to try to put together a big event for cleanup so that we can knock that out in one day. So if you are interested or anyone you know, please reach out to the city clerk or the DPS department, and they'll be happy to get your name and get you the information on that event.
Do you have an alternative date if that weather's bad?
I do not know that at this point. That would be a question for Jake. Jake, do you have an alternative date? He must have stepped away. We'll have to get that, oh, there he is.
David, can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead, Jake. Is
Yes,
it-
so that's the date we set annually to have all of that stuff cleaned up. But as far as volunteers go, we can do that anytime. In fact, we're already from the college to just from park and cemetery cleanups.
So we'll get the actual dates out here soon.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Councilwoman Pratt. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll move into introduction, adoption of ordinances, public hearing, ordinance amendment to section 36-143, rezoning of 450 Hidden Meadows Drive. Alan?
Yeah, so, that piece of property is currently owned by the Economic Development Corporation for the city. They approached, the planning commission back in December about possibly, rezoning it from business, local business to residential due to the fact that they have, had difficulty selling it as a commercial property, and several realtors suggested that they rezone it as residential and sell it as residential property, since it's immediately adjacent to the Three Meadows subdivision. And planning commission agreed, and after the public hearing, voted to recommend it to council to adopt the rezoning from B1 local business to single-family residential, which is the same zoning as the Three Meadows subdivision.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions for Alan? Or Kelly? Any questions for Kelly? Is there anything needs added to that, Kelly?
Rezoning it would definitely help sell it. The businesses that have been interested in the past, it's not even zoned for those type of businesses, unfortunately. We did have an individual that was interested in the parcel for a residential lot, and he had decided to back out because of the detention pond. So currently what EDC would like to do is, after it's rezoned, if it goes through, they would like to split the parcel out and take the pond off, so it'd be more sellable that way. It's a pretty nice lot. It would be, just over 4 acres for someone to build within the city, so. And EDC more than likely will put on some deed restrictions to have it comparable to the Three Meadows, because unfortunately it's not included in the Three Meadows rights and restrictions currently. Any other questions?
Entertain a motion to adopt the resolution to amend the zoning ordinance.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You guys have it. All right, we'll move into old business, amendment to airport engineering services. Dave?
Thank you, Mayor. As we've talked about before, you previously approved this agreement with RS&H, who did the design and bid process for the taxiway Charlie extension on the east side of the airport. And as you recall, that is 100% FAA paid through the CARES Act. So the cost of this project is actually being covered by the federal government. But that being said, we're at the construction phase. Just a meeting or so ago, the council approved the low bid contract on that. What this does is amend the engineering contract so they can oversee the construction management and testing, engineer testing and those type of services. As part of this process, Kristen, our city engineer, has done an independent review for the FAA and found that the proposed cost of services to be acceptable, and would recommend approving RS&H's amendment to their contract.
Questions for Dave? Need a motion to amend the, contract.
I'm so moved.
Second?
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. May I please have a roll call vote, please?
Councilperson Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Pratt,
Yes.
Sizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
Yes.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
Reiner,
Yes.
and Morrissey.
Yes.
8-0 approved.
We'll move into new business, item A, which is to set a special assessment District 1 public hearing. Lots of good information in here, but ultimately all we're doing here is setting the public hearing.
Right.
So we got a bunch of questions, concerns. We should wait to address them when there's public here that are specifically here for the public hearing. Of course, not trying to tell you guys you can't ask questions. Dave, you have anything to add to that? I mean, we've got the numbers here if you wanna.
Yes, so the first one is the Hillcrest subdivision. So that would be SAD 2101. That project is the largest, that totals about 700,000 in total. Based on the Special Assessment District policy that the Public Service Committee and the staff and council has reviewed, the numbers and the split of the numbers is based on that. That being said, as I said, the project is about 700,000 estimated. The city would be basically paying for about 380,000, and then the residents in that neighborhood would be covering 320,000. If the project goes, the cost of the project goes down, and this is how all of these three districts work. If there is, it does not come to that cost, the calculation of the resident cost will be recalculated. So will not exceed the $5,000, but could go below that. So that being said, as Mayor Stockford indicated, this is just to set the public hearings, which then residents will be notified by mail. We're also going to notify them by hand delivering the notices that they have. Basically, this public hearing will be March 15th, and if they want to object, they need to do so in writing according to the charter. If over 51% object in writing in any one of these three districts, then council could decide not to go forward with it. But if the council decided to go forward with it, it would require 7 votes of the 9 on council, kind of a super majority. So that being said, this is to establish those public hearing dates for each of the three districts that council has approved, putting the numbers together for, and then to notify the residents, publish it, and in 2 weeks have the meeting.
Very good. Any questions for Dave? Motion to set a public hearing for March 15th, 2021, which would be our next meeting, for consideration to establish Special Assessment District SAD 2101.
So moved.
Can we do all three in one motion?
I would do them separate.
Separate? Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I move to adopt O2.
Second?
Motion on the floor to set a public hearing for March 15th, for item B, Special Assessment District Number 2. Made by Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I move 403.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Morrissey to set a public hearing for Special Assessment District Number 3. All in
So Joe,
We do this every year.
new finance director, is here to speak on
Okay. Is she online or?
Nope, he's over here.
Oh, Joe. Come on up, buddy. Tell us what's going on here.
Okay, this resolution is just to keep us in compliance with MDOT so we can get funding for our dial-a-ride services, which we pull in roughly $40,000 a year for just charges for services. So we have to subsidize that through state, local, and federal funds. And this authorizes us for MDOT funding. And I'm transitioning to the transportation coordinator, and Bonnie will be as she retires.
Any questions for Joe? I mean, what happens if this, you've got this county transportation task force or whatever that's being set up, what happens if that dramatically changes things?
It has actually been determined here recently that we probably will not be able to move forward with that transition.
Okay. Any questions for Joe, any discussion?
Okay.
Thank you, Joe, appreciate it.
Yep.
Motion to approve the resolution?
Second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Briner, seconded by Councilwoman Pratt. May I please have roll call vote, city clerk?
Councilperson Stuchel?
Yes.
Pratt?
Yes.
Sizer?
Yes.
Mayor Stockford?
Yes.
Councilperson Soha?
Yes.
Briner?
Yes.
Morrissey?
Yes?
And Sharp.
Yes.
All approved. That's resolution 3441.
Thank you, Katie. Oh, we'll move into item item E in new business, banking resolution. Joe, you wanna come back up again, just in case there's any questions? Sure. Sorry if I would have noticed that, I told you to stay up there. Joseph Mangan and Bonnie Two are transitioning duties authorization to the position of Director of Finance. As part of this, Joseph Mangan will be added as signer only to the City of Hillsdale's bank accounts for County National Bank. Bonnie Two will be removed from the City of Hillsdale's bank accounts at County National Bank as signer only. Any questions for Joe? I got a question for you. I thought our accounts had been moved to Southern Michigan Bank and Trust.
We still have some accounts with County National.
Okay.
But yes, the majority of the money has been moved to Southern Michigan, and we will be transitioning completely over there at some point within the next 12 months.
Any questions? Comments? I think you can sit down again this time.
All right.
All right. Motion to approve the attached resolution.
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Soha, seconded by Councilman Briner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, we'll move to new business item F, resolution for discussion. Councilman Soha, take it away, Councilman.
So I appreciate your comments in support of this, everyone, and I want to thank you for coming out. I did not put this on the agenda to be for a yes or no vote tonight. I wanted it on the discussion table. I didn't want my fellow councilmen and women to feel like this was just something imposed on them. I wanted it to be able to be thought through thoroughly. I did propose it with the intention of it being passed as a resolution, just so that we here in Hillsdale can let our elected representatives at the state and federal level know that enough is enough and that they've crossed too many lines, and that we're not going to be ones who abdicate our responsibility to self-rule. And so with that being said, I want to hear from my fellow councilmen. We heard from the public, but any thoughts you might have concerning it or questions you might have towards me. I would like to state, I spoke to Doug Ingalls, the county commissioner, this morning, and he said the county is working on some language very similar to this. And I spoke to Sheriff Hodshire this morning as well, and he said that he is he hasn't given his support for the whole thing, but he said unequivocally that he will not enforce orders or mandates or abridgment of our rights, especially gun rights, and encouraged us to look deeply at H.R. 127 because of its overreach. And if you haven't read H.R. 127, I would like to amend this to specifically mention that H.R. because it is a terrible piece of legislation that grossly restricts and punishes those of us who choose to own weapons, even down to the point where we would have to tell the Secretary of State where in our house our guns are, which is none of their business, in my opinion. But I also had some pushback on some of the language, especially concerning H.R. 5 and my statement about the LGBTQ community. I am not, my suggestion there is not to infringe on any of their rights, but to not grant them any special rights or immunities. And there is some language in H.R. 5 that is very contradictory to the Christian faith, of which I am a believer. And it is my inference there that H.R. 5 would necessarily restrict Christians from being able to practice their religion, which is a constitutionally protected right, while granting new rights and immunities to people who do not have those same protections. So, I mean, it's been in my experience that the government just continues to find new things to grant rights for, and new people that seem to be persecuted who are not persecuted. It did this a couple weeks ago too, but fellow councilmen, women, please, your thoughts, I encourage them.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts on it. First of all, I'm grateful to you for bringing this up, because I think it gives us a chance to consider what kind of resolutions we want to have. In my opinion, the kind of resolutions we should do, we should be very disciplined about the kind of resolutions we do. That is to say, there should be very few of them, because if we do a lot of them, it cheapens each one as it comes out. So we should be very, and the other thing is that they should be specific. That is to say, they should be focused on one, particularly on one issue. So, for example, if there's a piece of legislation before Congress that would injure the interests of Hillsdale, we could do one on that, or something in the state legislature. For example, I'm just making this up, but if the state legislature said, we're going to have a bill that abolishes municipal governments, and we're going to replace them with state agencies to run the counties, directives from Lansing. Well, I would certainly support, first of all, I think there would be some people who go for that in Lansing. But second of all, I certainly would support a resolution opposing such a bill. Because I think we should stay very focused and be very economical about doing these kinds of resolutions. I don't think we should have too much of a broad-based type of resolution that is sort of a laundry list of things we don't like. I think it should be focused. That's the first point. The other 2 points, there's one on constitutionalism and there's one on consensus. In terms of the Constitution, I think we've basically settled the problem in the sense that we all take an oath to support the 2 constitutions plus the city charter, which is our city constitution. And I think that the way to go about constitutional issues generally, absent these resolutions that would be specific on a particular bill where we might have a constitutional argument in addition, as part of the argument against or for or against a bill. The way to do that is to do exactly what we did last year. If you recall, last year we received an edict from the state saying that we were not supposed to have in-person meetings of the city council. And as I recall, the city mayor took fairly strong exception to that. we reached an agreement amongst ourselves to have exactly this kind of meeting, which is to say, those of us who want to be here in person can be in here in person. Those of us who are not comfortable with being here in person can participate fully online. And that's been what we've done, and it's our job to interpret the Constitution as we understand it. So, in my opinion, on most constitutional issues, we should do it that way because actions speak louder than words. It's one thing to pass a nice resolution; it's another thing to actually walk the walk. And I think that should be our focus on most constitutional issues that come before us as a city. The third thing is consensus. As we all know, this city has a lot of problems, a lot of practical problems. And in my opinion, it was caused by negligence on the part of the city government in many years past. I think we started to turn around. I'm not taking any credit for it at all because it started to turn around before I got on the city council. And that was when we cleaned out BPU and we did the State Street project. Those two things I had nothing to do with. But since then, we basically were handed a situation where we were playing the governmental equivalent of catch-up football. And it was fourth quarter, and we were 2 or 3 touchdowns behind, and we've been sort of grinding out the yardage ever since because we don't have a lot of funding. What I want to do is, I think what we should be doing in terms of consensus building is to get a consensus on the types of things that keep focused on the types of things that we are charged to do, that we were sent here to do, which is public safety, economic development, roads and other infrastructure, recreation, that kind of thing. If we do too much editorializing about federal issues, we could muddy the waters a little bit too much. I don't mind doing some. You know, I'm an advocate of doing some things that oppose specific bills or specific acts. That's fine, but we can do it sometimes by resolution, more oftentimes by just acting and just without fanfare. We don't need, just doing it. And so those are my thoughts on the subject.
I would just like to echo the same comments. I thank you, Rob. This is an interesting discussion to have, and I think you look long and hard to find somebody in this county that isn't for our Constitution. This is a very red area, and we all love it. That's not the question. The question, like Dr. Morrissey said, is focus versus broad, because the other responsibility we have, like we're saying, we're building the city back, and to build that back, we're taking grant money to do some of that work. Now, these people don't play fair. We all know that. So how do we make the point and still protect our community, protect Dial-A-Ride, protect, public housing, protect these things that we're helping people with without just whack? You know what I'm saying? Because they aren't going to play fair. But the principles are excellent. And so how do we do this? And you understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's like Dr. Morrissey said, I think we need to really focus in on what we can walk, what we can do, what we can defend.
Well, we can defend our right to life and liberty and property without being dictated to from the likes of Lansing or Washington, D.C. And if they, I really, it offends me, the idea that we might compromise on principle because we'll lose a few dollars. I mean, I want the money. I know we gotta play the game on a level. And I mean, I want to see our streets rebuilt, right? I driving down some of these back roads that are dirt at this time of year is a very arduous adventure, right? And I was on a dirt road the other night and was only doing about 45 or 50, but there was some big potholes that just appeared, and I barely had time to slow down, and so those are things that I would like to see addressed and fixed. I mean, wouldn't it be magnificent if we could pave every road? But I know that's out of the question. I really appreciate what you said, and I'm willing to separate this out so that each one is, we address HR 5, we address HR 127, we address the mask mandates. If you want, to that point though, then we have too many resolutions. And I also put language in here very specifically and on purpose that we wouldn't fund or we would prohibit our employees from funding or enforcing the unconstitutional actions and encourage general resistance to the federal or state enforcement of the same. And I did that on purpose because that's actionable. And I don't know if I don't know where the laws land right now. My intention here is to remind our elected officials that they're just that. And I know the crony capitalism and the game is really broken right now. And it's going to take some necessary discipline to fix that, if it's even fixable. But I know we can start here by saying, listen, this Equality Act, it's unacceptable in our community and we're not going to enforce it. These mask mandates that are ever changing with the people who are mandating them, flagrantly flouting their own mandates and then explaining that they have a right to because they care for their personal hygiene or whatever. I mean, it's gross to me. And I think it would be admirable, and maybe, I mean, there's sanctuarycounties.com, there's a number of counties that are starting to take these stands, like Hillsdale County took last April. I believe it was last April when they passed, or February, when they passed a resolution in support of the Second Amendment. And that's what I want to do in solidarity with them, is pass something resolved. And I didn't want it to be a number of things. That's why this was 1,400 words when I started. And I got it down to 800 words. I made it concise because I wanted to hit some things that are hot key button issues, but they're necessary to address at the public level and have these discussions, because the people, I'm tired of elected officials speaking one thing and then not doing that when they get into office. And that's one reason why I couldn't vote for the tax increase 2 weeks ago, is because I ran on a platform to that I would say no more increased property taxes. Same kind of idea here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I may make a suggestion, I think you and I are both on the Operations and Government Committee, are we not? Both on that? Oh,
No,
well, what we might do is refer it to that committee, and then Councilman Soha could come to our meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think we have to do some triage here with this, and make it whatever we do should be something that's very defined, and do it step by step.
I'm in full support of that. That's why I brought it.
We might choose a resolution on the Second Amendment, but if the county's going to do it, that covers us too. So
The county already did that in February of last year.
Maybe we should do like one thing at a time and pace it so that I think everybody knows where we stand on it. I was appreciative of the gentleman who said that we should all watch the Constitution course from Hillsdale College. I lectured in that course. Thank you. So it's I think we can do these things, but I don't think we should do a kind of laundry list type of thing. I think that's a mistake. I think we should do something that's specific and addresses a particular bill, like that HR bill that you were.
HR 5,
Yeah,
I mean,
see, something like that would be good, something specific.
Question for Dr. Morrissey, I'm just asking, does a resolution like this actually give us additional protection over the Constitution?
No. I mean, eventually it would be settled, right? It doesn't, I don't think it does.
I mean, it's not, I mean, if you're going into a court of law, you're defending yourself based on the Constitution.
Right.
We're saying this is unconstitutional, whatever, we go to court.
Exactly.
But this resolution doesn't really add another layer of protection on there, does it?
No, what it would do, as I think he's thinking, is that it might focus the attention of some of our elected officials that are in different levels of government than ours to make statements on this and see what their constituents are thinking. So, for example, if there's a state law, for example, or state bill, we could certainly either endorse it or oppose it if it has some vital interest to Hillsdale City.
Yeah.
And that would alert them that we're behind it or against it. That's something that we should do. We shouldn't do it very often, though.
Right.
That's the kind of thing, I think if we think about it at the committee level, I think that would be a good idea.
I'm all for that. I wanted it in the discussion. I was assuming it would go to committee. I wasn't sure which committee, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Would that be the right committee, operations and government? Who else is with that committee? Is that Bruce or?
Yes, I'm on the committee, and so is Council Lady Pratt.
Oh, I didn't,
Well,
I didn't know that.
Lucky.
Was that it?
well, now we have something to meet about.
Right.
We may want to, when it goes to committee, give it a read. Whatever, I mean, it sounds like whatever's going to committee will come out potentially substantially altered. But we may want to give it a read for philosophical consistency. There's a couple of little, well, not little, but there's some nitpicks. Like as it reads now, it says that the amendments of the Constitution grant us rights. They actually don't do that. We have those rights. So just little things like that.
Which are important.
Which are
They
important.
are important. That's a good point.
No, it would need editing anyway.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean, I'm not trying to pile on it. It sounds like,
Editors, so you see those.
yeah. And I talk with Matt still too, and, you know, Matt sees even worse. I'm an editor, but Matt gives me nightmares.
That's right, that's for sure.
It says they declare the rights, actually.
Does it? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I must have, towards the bottom, I thought there was something that,
I might. I had a couple iterations. I hope it's.
like it's,
No, I.
I recommend we send it to committee.
Hold on now, I was talking to Councilman Soha, because it's his resolution, I wanted to see exactly what he wanted to do with it. If he wanted to push it to a vote, I would second it and vote for it. If he wants to send it to committee, then I'll vote for that.
So, I appreciate that. My thoughts on this were, that's why I said a discussion, that I was very, that was on purpose, because I wanted us to discuss it, and I was assuming it would go to committee. If it does go to committee, I would appreciate, being able to settle dates and a time for when it will come to a vote. And so if that's something that my fellow council people are willing to do, then that's what I would like to do. So, and we found the popping. It's my microphone. So I guess, I mean, would somebody else like to move for that to go to committee, or is that?
Well, Bruce moved for.
Oh, that was a movement.
If somebody wants to second it now, that's fine.
Oh,
I just wanted to see exactly.
Yeah.
Second.
How you wanted to move forward.
Second.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay, we can still discuss.
Just with, how do we get a date? Is that now? Do we do that now, or is that just?
So if it goes to the O and G, the chair is going to set a date to discuss it.
Will. What do you mean, will?
Are you the chair?
I don't think we met to select a chair.
I think they need to
We
establish
just
the
got in.
chair, yeah.
We haven't established a chair yet, so we need to, well, let's set, can we set a date for the meeting? Maybe if Councilwoman Pratt and Councilman Sharp could email me some dates, because I'm pretty flexible, I'm retired. So, right, so if you send me some dates where you're available, we can set up a meeting, and also we want a date where you're available.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can enter into the discussion with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that good?
I'm flexible too. I'm good for the evenings too, Will.
Okay. And,
I'm pretty flexible too.
okay, so let's, what I'll do, okay, so in that case, what I'll do is just email you a few dates. It would be in the evening, right? Is there any time that you prefer? 7 o'clock? Is that okay?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock for, okay, so we'll, 6 o'clock. It'll be 6 p.m. on some date, and I'll email all three of you about, 6 p.m. is okay with
Yes,
you?
we'll
Okay,
make
so
it work.
and I'll just email you tomorrow with some tentative dates, and we'll go from there.
City Attorney, if O and G holds a committee meeting on this item and Councilman Soha comes and speaks as a part of the deliberation process, is that going to be an issue?
You should know, my suggestion would be to avoid any kind of issue. What you would do is you would post it and treat it as an open meeting, just as though it were a meeting of the council. You don't have to post it as a meeting of the council, because I think if you only have 4 people there, you wouldn't have a quorum, right? You only have to post it as a meeting of the council if you had a quorum. But you should, because of the number of council people you had there, notice it as a meeting under the Open Meetings Act and make it available to the public, have public comment, all that sort of thing.
Okay, so what we can do then is, when we arrive at a date, we can notify Katie, and she can get the notice out.
Great, thank you. I love it.
I mean, maybe you guys should just get together and pass it around and tweak it so everybody's happy with the way it looks and what it says.
Let's just do a meeting. We can take it from there. And, oh, by the way, yeah, you can certainly, well, everybody will have ideas coming into the meeting. Have another meeting, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. And a roll call vote, City Clerk?
Councilperson Pratt,
Yes.
Lizer,
Yes.
Mayor Stockford,
No.
Councilperson Soha,
Yes.
Reiner,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Sharp,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
7-1 approved.
Okay, looking forward to it, guys. We'll move on to miscellaneous reports. There are no proclamations. We've got one appointment to the IMPC Appeals Board, Mr. Fainsler. Anybody, his application's on here. He's got a background in construction, so he should be good on this. And
I'll just add, I grew up next to Lance. He's been very active in the community for many years and is a part of the Fair Board and helps out down there with the buildings and grounds crew down there. So it'll be an asset to us. I would move.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Briner, seconded by Councilman Stuchel to appoint Mr. Fansler to the IPMC Appeals Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we'll move into general public comment. During this time, the podium will be open. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please limit your trips to one to the podium. Podium is now open.
I'd like to volunteer for the park cleanup. I think I can get like an army of people, get that done quickly. So I'll reach out to Jake and let him know, and I think I can get some volunteers for that. And thank you for the discussion. I appreciate it. I think these type of issues are a little bit more important than roads even, but I know roads are popular, so I just say thank you again.
Thank you, John. Any more public comment?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council members. My name is Namrata Karlan. I'm also known as Namu. My address is 10271 Highland Green Drive, Jerome. I'm from Somerset Center, Michigan. I am an active member of the National Federation, Republic of Women since 2007. A member now also of the NFRW on the Diversity Committee on a state level. I'm a constitutional Republican activist. I serve on various level of government-related entities within our county and Hillsdale. I'm here today to encourage this council to stand up and take some courage, to defeat anything that isn't draconian to the Constitution platform. First off, I want to start with gender mutilation, which is not normal, and let that sink in. Any bill Congress initiating is from the pit of hell. Council members, the resolution that is brought to you for discussion and was discussed at length by this council is answer to prayers. An unconstitutional official act, though having the form of law, is in reality no law. Wholly void and ineffective for any purpose. In Hillsdale County, I would concur that no one is bound to obey an unconstitutional official act, and no court is bound to enforce it. Persons fined, penalized under an unconstitutional act may seek relief, and local leaders should partake in addressing this and worth fighting for your constituents. My apologies. I'm here to remind you I have taken stand on these unwanted mandates and been a sole no vote as a former county commissioner, reminding ex parte Young 209, US 123, 1908, the attempt of state officer to enforce an unconstitutional statute is a proceeding without authority and does not affect the state in its sovereign or governmental capacity and is an illegal act, and the officer is stripped of his official character and is subjected in his person to the consequences of individual conduct. The state has no power to impart to its officer immunity from responsibility to the supreme authority of the United States. Another act I'd like to just quote really quickly is USC 241 of Tide 18. Conspiracy against rights states that government officials who conspire to deprive the people of their rights are subject to criminal prosecution. Same USCS 185242, deprivation of rights under the color of law state that government officials who deprive the people of their rights under the color of law are subject to criminal prosecution. Now you see, as officials we've been violated left, right, and center. Governor Whitmer working with Attorney Nessel, Secretary of State Benson, the Director of the Michigan Health Department, and the Michigan Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, and the Hillsdale County Health Department did conspire to violate the rights of the people of Michigan, including Hillsdale County to engage in commerce and move about freely to conduct the business of their daily lives. They did engage in fining, penalizing, or revoking the licenses of businesses for failure to obey and enforce the unconstitutional executive orders. Now, whereas executive orders issued by Governor Whitmer, I challenged it as a former commissioner. I did that, it went to the papers. I was the only one to take a stand on that, are the primary cause of the financial crisis in Hillsdale County that we are experiencing. I say fight these by passing a resolution brought forth today by Council Member Soka in response to the declared state of emergency, which are criminal acts of coercion and extortion against the people of Michigan, and more so right here at home. I support Councilman Soka's resolution. So when it goes back to the committee, I strongly suggest do it right for the sake of the constituents. I'd like to quote something lastly from Isaiah chapter 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light, and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet, and sweet for bitter. So, stand up, speak up, and live up to a great nation. God bless our great county of Hillsdale, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nemu. Any more public comment?
Oh, real quick, John Beckwith again. Want to share a little information with you, which I think is pretty interesting. My son, Micah Beckwith, was running for Congress back in September, and he came up to one of the Constitution classes we have on every Tuesday night. And that night they were talking about the authority of the sheriff, which was based on a 700 years of English law, as our Constitution is based on. It was the Magna Carta in 1215 that they took the sheriff of Nottingham, basically, Robin Hood, was the sheriff in those days was always protecting the king. They switched that 180 degrees around where the sheriff now protect the people from the king. And this is what's written into our Constitution. The sheriff has all the authority. The only person who can unseat the sheriff is the coroner, okay? And he's elected, he's not appointed on that. So, interesting. My son went back to, real quick, go back real quick. The governor of Indiana made an executive decision that if you're not wearing a mask, this is back in 1st of September, it's going to be 180 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. So my son went back, talked to the sheriff of Hamilton County, it's one county north of Indianapolis, and said, and he was supporting my son for Congress. He said, you have all the authority. You can stop this. It's unconstitutional. He said, Micah, I don't think that's true. So, well, you call the guy in Hillsdale, and you talk to him, and he did. He said, well, I'm a part of this association, the Sheriff's Association. You talk to my friend that's retired in Elkhart, Indiana, and he'll vouch for it. So he knew him, called him. He said, oh, yeah, you have all the authority in the county to protect the people from a government infringing on them when it's unconstitutional. So he got on the website, and in an hour he had 5,000 hits. He had 13 sheriffs in the counties of Indiana that called him back and said, what's going on? So this is what the rights that we have to protect the people. I'm not going to let the health department in. There'll be no fining anybody. I'll put them in jail if they come in here breaking the Constitution, because he has the right to do that. And so the other sheriffs actually got on the website. We're not going to do anything the government tells us to do when it's unconstitutional. And that was this was on a Wednesday when this happened, and the law was going to take place on the following Monday. By Thursday, the governor got on and said, well, we're not going to fine anybody or put them in jail, but if you just do this, just do it for us, that'd be great. So Hillsdale County, first in Hillsdale County, teaching the Constitution, went back to Hamilton County. It went through the sheriff's department. The sheriff stood up on the Constitution, went to the other sheriffs, and the guy from Hillsdale County actually got the governor of Indiana to send his edict, his executive order, which is unconstitutional. They can't give somebody authority. You can't give your authority to somebody else. When you're a governor, the House, or the Senate, you have to do it yourself. And that's what the Constitution teaches us. And they've screwed us all these years growing up. I can't believe it. I'm going to be 74 years old Wednesday. And I thought I knew my rights in the United States. I didn't know anything because they never taught us in school, the Constitution. They didn't want to teach us in school because this is a takeover. I've seen it ever since the 1950s on that. That's what I have to say. And our sheriff in Hillsdale County should be protecting our rights, but he won't do it. We need a sheriff who will. Thank you.
Thank you, John. You want to public comment?
Hello again, Carla, Ward 4. I'm interested to know what parts of SOHA's resolution that were up for discussion. If it was the part about the sexual orientation, mammals have two genders, male and female. How much money has been wasted by House Resolution 5 trying to convince everyone that you can choose? What makes this any different? It's my money. It's not their money, right? So let's just pick and choose what we can do, what we can't do, what we can use against you and what not. And this is pretty basic. The right to breathe, the right to have your firearms, the right to choose to be vaccinated or not, the right to choose if I can breathe, if I believe in God, I'm not going to die. And if I do, it's going to be for a cause, which is to stand here right now to make sure people don't get vaccinated if they don't want to. Let's go to Michigan Penal Code. In order for there to be abuse of a child, you have to have physical harm. Would you consider my child coming home, who was normal when she went to school, telling me she's actually a boy and wants to have a sex change? Physical harm? Mental harm? Let's look. Serious mental harm means an injury to a child's mental condition. My daughter is not a boy. If I want my kid to have that discussion, it's not up for you or a school board to decide with my money that I paid into an entrapment to my child. Did you know that comprehensive sexual education starts in 6th grade and is required at least 1 year between 9th and 11th? Let's see what else we got. Kids aren't worried if they're black or white when they're born, or if their parents are racist, yet it's taught in school. It starts in kindergarten. Why are we paying teachers' unions for fear-mongering when we can be locked up for the same thing? Making kids question themselves, making them question me, making them question you, making them question God. That was all part of the plan, right, for my taxpayer money? I don't think so. You get $8,000 per student for my kid to come home and question everything that I ever taught him, everything that was my responsibility, my constitutional oath to the Lord to make sure my kid grows up with an education, a job, the ability to stand up to other people and know what's right and stand up when it's right when they're getting paid for it. Not for discussion. So why do we support continuing to pay taxes on this? I'm going to start a movement because it's already started. In Alaska, no longer do you even get to eat lunch in school. We can do better than this. We can do better than this. I would think that all of this is fear-mongering and terrorism, especially since it airs on the television and radio 24/7. I would also mention that the Holy Bible scripture, Ephesians 2:2, following the prince of the air, this spirit is now at work in the sons of disobedience. Right here it clearly states, fear-mongering, disobedience, it's all act of the devil. We can save more money teaching our kids better than this. And I would encourage everybody to take a second look at this and vote for the people, for the kids, for the future, because you all took an oath and we all die. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Well, Rob Yeager, Hillsdale Township. One thing I got wrote here in a circle is courage. Have courage. In support of this resolution, it's important to have discussion. Definitely important to have discussion. By what I see and sense and hear tonight is just frustration. Everybody's frustrated because we exercise our right to vote. People that represent us don't carry through and want to appease and apologize. Again, discussion is good, but appeasement and apologies have never worked for us the past 40 years, honestly. The Republican Party goes backwards, conservatives go backwards. I understand, yeah, they're not going to play fair, but we appease and apologize. We keep going backwards. It never gets us anywhere. We need to have courage. It's going to hurt if we lose the money. But if we don't put our foot down, stand up for it, we're never going to get anywhere. That's all I got to say.
And I'm up here for Associates resolution. Morrissey, your self-contradictory was quite disturbing. You said you didn't want to throw a bunch of resolutions out, but yet then you want to divvy it up and send multiples out. You were also talking that it is the board's duty to interpret the Constitution. That was already done for you with the 85 Federalist Papers. And if you haven't read them, it's a strong read because it tells you your job to uphold your oath to the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim Martin, Hillsdale Township. Bet everybody's about tired of hearing about this resolution tonight, huh? I'm here to ask the city council why you think your industrial park property is worth $30,000 an acre. A lot of people in Hillsdale City probably don't know that. In fact, one of the gentlemen that spoke tonight was looking to bring a business into Hillsdale, one that you city people could probably use. Research some property and find out you want $30,000 an acre. Where do you come up with that number? Let's be real. This is Hillsdale County. We're not in Ypsilanti, Detroit. We're in Hillsdale. You want that industrial park to fill up? Let's get real. I'm going to present you guys with a proposal to a piece of property in that's real. All right? You take it, you take it. It'll be full, but I think you guys are crazy. I'd like to know which one of you came up with that, because, man, I've done a lot of research, and $30,000 is a lot of money. There's a lot of property up there empty. At College on the Hill, that ain't ever going to fill that damn industrial drive. You know it's not. You guys got your airport, sell that. Let us working class put some businesses in here. So I'd like you guys to think about that, how much that property is really worth. Because they can sit empty and make you nothing. We can put businesses out there and make you something. So that's all I got to say.
Robert Eichler, and usually I get something well-written, but I'm not going to. I do want to point out that we've had some issues with the county where millages are coming in. If you want to take a look at the county treasurer office, let's find out how many homes are coming up for tax foreclosures. Let's take it, John. I mean, hopefully you folks will not impose any type of millages or taxes and influence the boards, the school boards especially. We just got hit with another one with ISD last year. That's coming into play, and we're all losing our little bit of properties. And if you take a look at it, take a look at how many's out there. Take a look at what's in this food line down here at Salvation Army. How about taking a look around Jackson County? Battle Creek is really bad. We're losing more. We can't afford that. We got to change a little bit better, and hopefully we're not going to listen to this yahoo, what do you want to call her? Mayor, or what do you call her? Our governor? I don't call her our mayor, for God's sake. But anyway, just for a little bit of mediancy, take a look at what the facts are on how much money is there that we can actually stop and just hold back just a little longer. Because there is a lot of people out there losing, and they're trying to make it. And for God's sakes, let's stop the damn taxes for at least 2 years. We go with a negative 2.74. We can actually challenge what's going to happen in the next following 2 years, because it will follow itself. But North Adams is coming out with a new I mean, this is the silliest thing. They're a great school. What do they need all that money for? For 25 years, you're going to put my grandkids into debt? I mean, for goodness sakes, this is nonsense. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Doesn't have too much to include in you guys' folks tonight, but at least I hope you listen. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. More public comment?
Jack McLean.
Go ahead, Jack.
I got a couple questions. One is in the charter
Thank you. Thanks, Jack. Any more public comment?
Penny Swan, Ward 4. I'm getting back to Councilman Soha's resolution. And since this is going to committee, a lot of committees only have one public comment, and some of them are at the end, so I'm going to speak now. Going along to get along has been the way of politics for a very long time. And look where it's gotten us. I'll tell you, for the last year, we've been living in tyranny because of a microscopic virus. The power of the people is at the local level, and the local level needs to tell the state and federal government enough is enough. And excuse my French, but to hell with the consequences. I will remind you, the health department has been in Hillsdale City and finding businesses as a result of not following the governor's mandates. She is weaponizing the health department. They are getting fined and harassed. Nothing is being done. Councilman Morrissey, you mentioned the county did a Second Amendment sanctuary resolution. They did not. I know, I'm just qualifying, you can look it up. It was proposed, but they changed it. They took out the Second Amendment and it was rewritten and said, which happens during meetings, things get rewritten. They said they will support their oath to the Constitution, something to that effect. I would hope with the ONG meeting about Councilman Soha's resolution, this going to the ONG, it can be done and resolved ASAP and back to council at the next meeting. I've witnessed these things drag out over months. I applaud Mayor Stockford and all of council that have been here. We did a meeting out on the lawn trying to work around. I applaud that process and all of you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. Any more public comment?
They should have had 28 seconds left, so I want.
Dennis Wayne Scott, I know I started some of this, I guess I might be able to end it. But I want to thank you for looking this over and everything. I know it's going to be something that's going to be on the minds of each and every one of us. And I hope that as you look this over, that it will be something that, you know, Hillsdale County has made quite a bit of reputation now for being some of the first that's done different things political. We've been ridiculed by many. We've been uplifted by many. And by your votes on this could also be another beginning place for other counties and other small towns even that has, and counties and different ones to be able to look at this and say, hey, we need this also. And I think that this will be something that, you know, as county or as city council, you know, that you can take and brag on later. I don't think it's going to be something that you're going to have to hide your head from. I think we have county employees or county commissioners that have done things that has been enough. I would be one that would want to go hide my head from. And we've had some that should have been recused themselves from voting on things that went ahead and went on there because they were part of the problem and not part of the solution. And you guys have done well. I commend each and every one of you. But please, please, before you even think about anything, go to the Lord in prayer and ask for guidance and help, because it's there for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Good evening. I'm Amanda Brower. I'm a resident of the city of Hillsdale. And I just wanted to be here in support of Councilman Soha's resolution. Some discussion, I appreciate your willingness to discuss it and review it. Some language that was discussed was a little bit concerning to me when it was being discussed about whether or not it would go to committee. I heard the word triage, and as a medically trained person, when I hear triage, I think of assessment. And when we triage someone, it means that we decide what level of priority they have as far as needing care. And I just would like to encourage the council to adapt an out-of-the-box mindset for what is going on in our politics, no matter what side you're on. We're living in unprecedented times, seeing things that we have never seen before, infringements that have never been committed before. And I would like to echo Mr. Beckwith's sentiments when he says that this is for protection of the people. And you are what we have as far as protection from unconstitutional mandates. And so I would just like to encourage you to think about the unprecedented times that we're living in when it comes to how we have to think differently, how we can't always piecemeal things out and do things the way that we might have 25 years ago. Just because desperate times call for desperate measures. If your spouse or your child needed a life-saving procedure, you wouldn't deliberate for 3 days with the rest of your family to decide whether or not you were going to do this. So I appreciate your time and your consideration, but I would encourage you all to take a broad sweep at this, because a broad sweep has been leveraged towards the people. Thank you.
Hello. I think they should be protecting us, so that's all I got.
Thanks, Dustin.
I'd like to thank you guys for being here too. My name is Roger Sparks. I'm a business owner here in Hillsdale County, and I don't know any of you, but I appreciate what you're doing. And I just want to say that it's very important that you realize what you're here for and who you're here for. And you do understand the power of the people. I've learned that. I was big with campaigning for different ones since 2006 to the 12 or 15. And I know what we can do. So just keep your heads level, and you'll stay where you're at if you want to be there. Remember, you're there for us. And we can put you out if you're not got together. So thank you very much. And hopefully I'll get to know you, because I'm getting back into the field. You're going to meet Roger Spark again. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. Any more public comment? Any more comment online?
Joseph Henry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Hello.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to watch from home, Mr. Mayor, and you guys are not speaking into the mics quite loud enough for us at home here. Mr. Morrissey, you're my friend, but you're very soft spoken. Could you try to speak into the mic a little more? I like what you have to say. I just can't hear you because you're so soft spoken. That's number one. Number two is I think that we are home with Hillsdale College, and we need to start acting like them. They've been fighting for truth and liberty since 1844. We're a constitutional college, and I think that we should be practicing the Constitution in the council chambers. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Any more public comment? Any more online public comment? Alrighty. We'll close the podium and the virtual podium and move into the city manager's report. Dave.
Mayor, I'm really going to pass on any real comments tonight. I think there's been a lot of good discussion going on.
Very good.
And with that, I'll take questions of council if there's anything that they've seen or have questions about.
Any questions for Dave?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mackey. I did have a constituent ask me about how to go about getting a pothole in front of his driveway fixed. He said he wanted to cold patch it himself, and so I was just curious what the proper way to do that is.
I would ask that constituent to reach out to DPS. I know they're actively cold patching, and they got the trucks full now, so if you have him reach out to DPS and Jake Hamill, I'm sure they'll get that taken care of.
Thank you.
Next time. Any more questions for Dave? Thank you, Dave. Council comment, anybody have anything interesting?
I don't know if I'm interesting, but I'll speak quickly so that I have that going for me. I had that resolution, Councilman Soha's resolution, gone to a vote, I would have voted for it because you can't vote against the Constitution, at least not in this town. But that said, I think on substance, a lot of what Councilman Morrissey said is correct, and I think we need to kind of understand the difference between a matter of principle and a matter of process. And I think that we need to all think about how profound our founding documents are. So our founding documents are not a literal how-to manual. They're a set of principles that, to some degree, we have to figure out what to do with. We actually have to exercise prudence and judgment and think about that. So, you know, we could talk about the Magna Carta, and it's true that in some sense that inspired the founding documents, but you might remember before I talked about the difference between a document granting rights and a document saying that it preserves rights. So the Magna Carta actually literally grants rights. The understanding was the king is going to keep all of his powers, but in return he'll grant you these certain rights. The Constitution is kind of the opposite, and the Declaration, we have these rights, we are born with these rights, and in exchange for protection, we cede some of them to the government within certain limited spheres. There was the comment about the Federalist, and I agree. I think that the Federalist is the best articulation of what the Constitution means or meant to the founders, because it was a consensus argument that was written by people who were there. They knew what they meant. But there is also the argument that is contained within the Federalist and elsewhere that all of the separate spheres of government do have to exercise reason and think about what the Constitution means. President Jackson was big on that argument. I don't know if any of you have ever read the thrilling bank veto messages from President Jackson, but Jackson, who was a great inspiration for President Trump, made the argument that every government servant is supposed to think about the operation of the Constitution. So we're not supposed to say, well, the courts say this and the courts are supreme. We have three co-equal branches of government. So all of that is a rambling way to say that none of us are against the Constitution or against the document. But a lot of what Councilman Morrissey said is correct, and it does bear consideration. The Federalist Papers, by the way, also say that changes in government should not be taken lightly, and they should be few and far between. So when we are talking about a resolution that has its power because it's symbolic, it's not really the same as the example of someone's wife needs an operation, God forbid. The incursions on our rights are already being made, so this is something that symbolically might say this is wrong, but it won't necessarily change any of those things. It's just a step along the way. So I just ask, I think it's great that, I mean, there's an uncommon number of people here studying the Constitution and the founding documents, but please be patient with us. Nobody sits on the Hillsdale City Council to be part of the elites or to be part of a good old boys club or for God knows money or power. I would rather be home with my family, which is why I made that joke. God willing, I'll be in the audience with you when my term is up. So I don't want there to be this feeling of opposition or that there's a disconnect between people who are constitutional activists. I felt like some of the remarks, the tenor was as if we had said that we were against the Constitution. We're not, and I don't argue that we're perfect. Far from it. I've been told I'm arrogant, although that's different from being told I'm wrong. I'll note that. But I do think that we're all on the same page, and you'd be hard pressed to find a place where people care so much about the Constitution. But, you know, even people like Hamilton and Jefferson had arguments about policy. This is not an argument about whether the Constitution's good, it's an argument about policy. So if Jefferson and Hamilton could argue about that, you know, certainly there's room for that here without being adversarial.
Well said, Bill.
I'll shut up. I went way longer than that.
No, well said.
Just, if I might, Mr. Mayor. There was a couple of comments made that seemed to cast Sheriff Hodshire in a negative light. And I spoke to him today, and I just want everyone to know, in no uncertain terms, did he advocate for defending our rights here in Hillsdale County. And he said he would not enforce any unconstitutional orders. So I just want you to take comfort that our sheriff has made that statement to me, and I asked him specifically if I could say that here, and he said yes. So just wanted to make that known.
So move.
Second.
Motion on the floor, Councilman Bronner, seconded by Councilman Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
See, I had a guilty conscience and couldn't second that one because I made it